Good afternoon and welcome to this class. We said that when you're joining the class, make sure that your microphone is off, because if you don't do that, you leave me with no option than to throw you out. I can see all of us on the screen, and therefore I have absolute right to kick you out of this class if you don't follow instructions. So this time, I want to take to start this particular class. So let's start this particular class, and today we are going to focus on what we call oral communication. When you talk about oral communication simply means communication by word of mouth. So like, for example, right now, I am doing teaching orally. So I am speaking to you. So oral communication simply means communication by word of mouth. Communication by word of mouth. And this is the primary form of human communication. Everybody was born. And when you are born, you started speaking through word of mouth. It is a primary form. Primary form simply means that this is the basic form of human communication. That people talk. You will rarely find someone who doesn't talk. Even though we have those who are deaf and dumb and they use sign language or they use verbal communication, but generally it is the primary form of human communication. It's the basic form of human communication. Other secondary form of communication is, for example, written communication, for example, verbal in non-verbal communication, and so on and so forth. So it is the use of spoken language that gave human a great advantage over animals. Sometimes we say that animals are communicate. Animals do not communicate. They only do what? They only show signs, or they produce sound. They produce sound. Like a cow, you cannot say this cow is communicating. No, it does not communicate. It uses sound. So when you hear a certain sound, you know that this cow is in pain. When you hear a certain sound, maybe for example, you have kept a dog, you know that there is something strange that is in the compound. If you hear a certain sound that is produced by a dog, you will know that this dog is happy, or you will know that this dog is in pain, or you will know that this dog has seen something strange. It is not normal for it to act that way. So animals produces sound, they do not communicate. And the sound that they produce, we internalize the voice or the sound, and we try to attach it to a meaning. What does it mean when I hear maybe my dog producing a certain sound? So human beings communicate as compared to animals. Therefore, we ask ourselves, what are some of the advantages of oral communication? Number one, it is learnable and improvable. It is a learnable and improvable human activity. The way you communicate, you can learn how to communicate better. You can improve how to communicate. Maybe you are not courteous. You don't use courtesy. For example, you step on someone's toes. You just say, Isa. No, that is not courtesy. You don't say the polite words, excuse me, huh? Please, may I, those things, huh? Kindly. You don't use such words. And now you decide, now from today, I am going to learn how to use kind words. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to be courteous. That is, we are saying that oral communication is something that you can learn, and it is something that you can do, what you can improve as you grow old. Number two, it is a more accurate reflection of thoughts and attitude of the speaker. When someone speaks to you, you know their attitude towards you. It reflects their thought. They say that out of the abundance of heart, mouth speaks. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. That's what they say. That you speak what is in your heart, what is in your mind. Even if you hate someone and you pretend that you love them, you might utter a word. That simply means that that is what you have in mind, or that is what you take that person for. Number three, it creates and sustains warm interpersonal relationships. I don't know that you have heard somebody saying, hiyo sio maneno ya kuongea kwa simu. Enda mkutane na yeye, muongee na yeye face to face. So it creates and sustains warm interpersonal relationships. Like for example, you are in a relationship, it's a dad-mom relationship, or a dad-daughter relationship, or a son-father relationship, and they are not in terms. So the father plans for a nyamchom somewhere, maybe at Kamakis, or maybe somewhere in Kasarani, or somewhere along Thika Road, or even Mombasa Road, or even Waiyaki Way. So he plans a meeting, buys you nyamchom, and then you start now doing what? Talking. And then you start now discussing where the rain started beating you, and you start apologizing to one another, and you create a very good relationship, and you start afresh. So it creates and sustains warm interpersonal relationship. And remember, at that time when your dad has organized all that thing, you are using word of mouth. You are not using written communication. You are not typing something on WhatsApp or on Facebook. You are just talking face to face. And then lastly, we can say that, is it lastly? Point number 4, we can say that it combines sights that you can see. It combines sound, and this enables participants to benefit from both verbal and non-verbal stimuli. Then we also have that it allows for instantaneous exchange of ideas, information, opinions, or feelings. You can exchange your ideas instantaneously. You can exchange information and opinion instantaneously. It's one touch. You can exchange your feelings about maybe a certain topic, about a certain lecturer, about a certain neighbor that just joined you recently, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, we are we are saying it enables participants to seek immediate clarification whenever in doubt of the meaning being negotiated. Like for example, maybe you are having a business meeting and somebody has explained something and you have not understood. You can tell them, I beg your pardon, can you repeat what you have just said? So it enables the participant to seek immediate clarification whenever they are in doubt of a meaning that is being negotiated. And lastly, number 7, we can say it provides for instantaneous feedback, thereby making it possible for the participant to assess the success or failure of the communication effort, and so decide whether or not to modify their needs for communication interaction. So in other words, those are the advantages of verbal communication. Then anything that has got an advantage, then it surely has disadvantage. Like for example, when you talk about advantages of money, money is good, but still it has got its disadvantages. You cannot buy without money. That's a disadvantage. So disadvantages of oral communication, it lacks permanence. That when we speak to you, when I speak to, let me choose a person here. When I speak to Opanda Michael, when I speak to Opanda Michael, maybe in an open ground, it lacks permanence unless it is recorded. Like for example, this class is being recorded. So it lacks permanence. It cannot be stored. Verbal communication cannot be stored unless it is recorded. So it lacks permanence. Secondly, it does not allow participants' thoughts to crystallize, therefore resulting in imprecise communication and even outright errors which could be avoided in written communication. I don't know that you have heard people arguing, people having an argument. Before this one finishes the statement, the other one has started another one. Before he finishes what he has started, the other one has already said something. So they do not allow, sometimes the oral communication does not allow participants' thought to crystallize. It does not allow participants' thought to crystallize, simply mean to understand and internalize the message properly and then respond in the right way. That is one disadvantage of oral communication. Unlike what we call written communication. In written communication, first of all, you are very careful when you're writing a letter or when you're writing a message to a friend through a social media. You are very careful. You choose your words wisely. Therefore, when you send it to someone, that person you are sending to will have to sit down, look at the message, think about it, then respond to you after thinking critically about what your message says. Then thirdly, we are saying there is possibility of distortion of meaning. Yes, people can distort meaning because it is oral communication. Maybe somebody calls you a donkey. Let me just say that in the process of communicating, or tells you, I don't think whether you think. Huh? Sometimes be very critical in thinking, or think critically sometimes. Maybe somebody tells you that, or think when you do some things. And then this other person thinks that this person has called him a fool because he doesn't think. And therefore you realize that that this person can defend himself by saying, no, I did not say that you are that you don't think. So you find that there is a lot of distortion. People can distort the meaning of the word so that they are accepted by their counterparts. And then number 4, it can easily be denied. Like maybe you promise someone a chocolate. Maybe today is on a Friday. You promise someone to buy him a drink. It can be a soft drink or a hard drink. And then maybe you promised him last week, a day like today. And then you're told, you promised me a drink today. So where are we meeting? And then you start saying, no, who said that? Me, I did not promise you anything. We never talked about that. So it is easily deniable. You can deny it easily. And then lastly, on disadvantages of oral communication, it has little weight as contractual evidence. So we are saying this, that when you are in a contract is simply an agreement between 2 or more people. And when you talk about a contract can be written form and it can also be oral. You can do an oral contract. Say, for example, somebody is selling you a piece of land, maybe 50 by 100, and he tells you that I'm going to sell you this piece of land at 800 shillings. You see, it's an agreement, it's a contract that you are engaging yourself into. Then after buying 800 shillings tells you, no, I told you I'm going to sell you this plot 1.7 million or 2 million. You cannot deny it. Huh? So it has little weight or as contractual evidence. Whom will you tell that this person told me that he's selling a plot of 50 by 100 at 800,000? Where is the evidence? So it doesn't have more weight on contractual evidence. That's why you realize whenever there is a contract that is going on, people like writing, maybe for example, writing that particular contract down. And that contract has to be signed by both parties, maybe in front of a lawyer, so that in case this one denies, there is a lawyer who comes and says, actually, this is what they decided or agreed. So that is it. Unless there is a question, unless there is a point that is not clear that you wish me to look at it. anything that is not clear that you want me to focus on it? Kuna swali kwa hizo disadvantages na advantages? Is there any question? If no question, then we move to what? We move to verbal messages and misunderstandings. Verbal messages and misunderstandings. Number one, you have to realize that misunderstandings are facts of life. Misunderstandings are meant to be there. Sometimes I may talk to who? Let me choose a person from this group. I may talk to Akech Mickey, and I tell Akech Mickey that I want you to do A, B, C, D. So on Monday, we are going to meet somewhere, and then you give me the report of what I have told you. And then Akech Mickey does something that is not actually what I did not expect. So there arises a misunderstanding. Or maybe I tell you, I want you to do a budget. And in the process of doing a budget, it shows that there's some money that was misspent, that was not spent properly. Or maybe we are discussing about a budget. You tell me the budget is 500,000. You now start counting, you start now counting for me. You tell me this one costs maybe 5,000 or maybe, yeah, 5,000. And maybe it costs 500 shillings. I tell you, no, it is 500. And then we start having an argument over 500 and 5,000. So we start having a misunderstanding. So when you're talking about verbal messages, misunderstandings are a fact of life. And the process of encoding and decoding. What is to encode? To encode is to put your thoughts. Your encoding is to put your thoughts in a way that can be understood by another person. Yani uko na idea, hiyo idea already iko kwa akili yako. If you want to put that idea into a written form, into a verbal or an non-verbal communication, then the process of putting your idea, your thoughts into a language or into a manner that can be understood by others is what we call encoding. And decoding is the process of now maybe reading the message, reading the non-verbals or seeing the non-verbals or the verbal messages, and then trying to interpret them. That is what we call decoding. You watch the non-verbals, you read the written messages, or you listen to someone, and then you start doing what? Interpreting the message that you get. Decoding is putting your thoughts into a message that can be understood by the who? By the receiver or by others. So the process of encoding and decoding, which we have already explained, isn't perfect. Whenever it comes to verbal messages, that process is not perfect. The way Akech Mickey will translate a certain message, he will translate it differently. The way, maybe, for example, who else? The way Njoki Mwaura will translate a message is totally different by as compared to how Akech Mickey will translate the message. And that one is like that. So because of the most basic language problems involved in misunderstanding, sometimes it is maybe, for example, the technicality of the words that I've used that you will not be able to understand me. So we will begin at looking at how to prevent this type of communication, how to prevent this type of communication or misunderstanding. Number one, the process. How can you do what we call prevent misunderstanding in verbal communication? We are told use unequivocal terms, unequivocal terms. And unequivocal terms means that when you're talking about something, use a term that is not ambiguous. Use a term that is not ambiguous. For example, when you say, or when you tell someone, let me pick another person in this group. When you tell Ndirango Yvonne, let's meet for a cup of coffee. You see, that one is an equivocal term. That is an equivocal term. Let's meet for a cup of coffee today. Number one, the reason we're saying that it is an equivocal term is because it has got double meanings. Today at what time, where? Are we meeting in town? Are we meeting in the students' cafeteria? Are we meeting in the class? Are we meeting on the road? Where are we meeting? So that is an equivocal term. So to avoid misunderstanding, when you are communicating verbally, you avoid an equivocal term. No, use an equivocal term to avoid misunderstanding. Equivocal terms are those I beg your pardon, those terms that can be understood easily. Unequivocal terms are those terms that can be understood easily. Unequivocal. Equivocal terms are those with two different meanings. Like when you say, let's meet for a cup of coffee. Or when you call someone hustler, you're just a hustler. You know, hustler has got so many meanings. It may mean, number one, positively, you are a hardworking person. It may mean that you are a swindler. It may mean that you are a travel guard. It may mean that you are a prostitute. So use unequivocal terms. So avoid what? Equivocal terms. Equivocal terms are those with two meanings, different meanings that are both acceptable and common, because it will bring about misunderstanding. Number two, to avoid misunderstanding in verbal communication, use lower level abstraction when clarity is necessary. Use lower level abstraction when clarity is necessary. So any object or idea can be described at various levels. Some very general and others quite specific. For example, if you tell your boss the job will take a little longer, you need to clarify how much longer it will take. You need to clarify how much longer will it take. Don't say it is going to take only a few days. What is a few days? A few days to some people might mean a whole year. A few days to some people mean maybe 3 weeks. A few days to some people means 2 days. So don't use such terms. We are calling them lower level abstraction. Number three, use slangs with caution. A slang is what we call, slang is a language that we use, and every community has got their own slang. Every profession uses their own slang. Even every nation, you'll find that they have their own slang. So use it with caution. Tunaongea kuhusu sheng. Tumia sheng with caution, because you might be misunderstood. You might be misunderstood completely. You have heard people say Buddha, but you hear the old people saying ni nani unaita punda? Whom are you calling punda? You also hear people saying huyu nimekuwa sponsored, niko na sponsor na ni sponsor masomo yangu. You know, now my sponsor means something different. Sponsor might be you have looked for an old person that you a friend with benefit, that you benefit, he gives you money and you give him what he wants, or she gives you what you want. Nowadays, avoid such things. Avoid slang completely, because it might bring about misunderstanding. For example, ukisema mi niko sponsored na niko na sponsor na ni sponsor masomo, watu watafikiria vitu vingine, na labda sponsor ni an organization like a church, an organization like a very big company like Safaricom or maybe Airtel. It's sponsoring your education. But ukisema niko na sponsor, watu watafikiria vitu zingine, watafikiria uko na mtu ambaye anakulipia fee. So avoid such things. And then number 4, we are told avoid jargon, use jargon judicially. Use jargon judicially. Judiciously. Use jargon judiciously. Jargons are technical words that are used by different groups of people. For example, jargons can be used by journalists. Jargons can be used by people in the hospitality. They can be used by even these people from IT. So use them judiciously, because if you use them, people might not understand what you are saying. Like there is a friend of ours, his name is PLO Lumumba. PLO Lumumba uses jargon after a jargon after a jargon after a jargon to make a sentence. And when you listen to that sentence, you get nothing. So simply means he has not communicated, because communication is ensuring that there is a common understanding between the receiver and the sender, period. If there is no common understanding, you have not communicated. Any question up to that point? Mutunga Munyao.
Yes, mimi kuna swali.
I will link the two later on.
Yes.
But yeah, please make sure it's interesting. Okay, along the time.
Yes, Vani. Is it Vani Omondi ama nani ako na
You
swali?
like about each other and not
Ni mimi. Please repeat the second point. Hiyo ya sijapata vizuri.
We have said in the second point that there are two words. Use not you. The second point talks about use lower level abstraction.
Sorry. The first one. Yeah, unequivocal.
Number 1, we've talked about avoid unequivocal. Use unequivocal terms. We have said that unequivocal terms is a term that doesn't have double meanings. Like for example, when you call someone hustler, that's an equivocal term, because hustler can mean, number 1, a very hardworking person. Number 2, it can mean a swindler. It can mean a travel girl or even a prostitute. So you are told equivocal terms are those with two different meanings that are both acceptable and common. Like for example, when you talk about hustler. So most equivocal misunderstanding arises in casual conversation. Casual conversation, like when you're talking to a friend, where the statements seem perfectly clear until you discover that the other can interpret them differently. Like for example, I can say, Adrian, you are a hustler. Na labda nimekutukana. Na wengine waanze kukuchekelea. Ushindwe kwa nini wanacheka? Si mwalimu amesema mimi ni hardworking. Kumbe wanakuchekelea wakijua, wakipeg the meaning on a prostitute. Some will laugh at you putting we laugh at you maybe because they have translated it to be what? A travel girl. Or maybe a swindler. So that is it. That is an equivocal term. So use unequivocal terms and avoid equivocal terms. Avoid equivocal terms, use unequivocal terms. Any other question before we proceed?
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes,
I have a question for the last.
I can hear you, Chelanga, my text.
Yes, the last question.
Yes, the last
use
question.
jargon. Yeah, use jargon. You said language used by tourists.
Now we have said these are languages used by different kind of professionals. Like lawyers, they have their own jargons. Like when they say caveat emptor.
Yeah.
They put maybe for example, they put an advert. There is an advert that is put there and then it is written caveat emptor. Caveat emptor simply means buyer beware. Buyer be aware. Unaambiwa ya kwamba kuwa macho. That is a jargon from the law field. We also have other jargons. For example, when you talk about in journalism, when you talk about the story was killed, unashindwa hii story iuliwe. It simply means that the story was rejected because of some condition that it did not meet. We have even in banking, they have their own jargon. They have their own jargons. These are technical words that are used by a group of people or professionals. Even in hospitality, you'll find that they have their own jargon. So when they speak them, a person from the media might not understand what they are saying. Any other question before we proceed? So let's go to working on your verbal communication. So we are told that as you set out to communicate verbally, you will be more successful if you use words that have the same meaning to the person you are communicating to. For you to improve your verbal communication, you will need to consider the following. For you to improve your verbal communication, you will need to consider the following. Number one, you are told what do you want to say? What do you want to say? We are saying that for you to communicate, for you to improve your verbal communication, you will need to consider the following. First of all, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to communicate? Or what do I want to say? So when you are involved in one-on-one communication, you often have a chance to clear up misunderstandings. You can tell if the person is confused. You can tell if a person is annoyed, and so on, from their facial expression, body movement, or other nonverbal cues. For example, if you want to come to my office and you want to talk to me, before you even talk to me, I will look at your nonverbal cues. I will look at your face, your facial expression, and I will tell this student is very angry, this student is very anxious, this student is fearful, and so on and so forth. So when you're talking with a big group, it may not be so easy to clear up misunderstandings. So in order to clear up any confusion, especially in public speaking, you must consider what it is that you want to say. Speakers who do not know exactly what they want to say end up confusing their audiences. Umeambiwa tu simama utuambie kitu and you don't know what to say. You will end up confusing people. Number two, how do you want to say it? What do you want to say? Number one, how do you want to say it? So once you have figured out what you want to say, you must choose the language you are going to use. For example, don't mix Sheng with English, with Kiswahili, with mother tongue. You are not communicating because not everybody understands Sheng, not everybody understands your mother tongue. So it is important to ask yourself, how are you going to say it? It is also important for you to determine to what extent you have to define the term you have used. Like we have used today an equivocal term. So you have to determine to what extent you have to define the term you have used. If you are giving a speech about justice, for example, you have to consider the language you use very carefully. For example, you are giving a speech to old people, like your father and your mother. Maybe it's a parents' day in school. Your principal is there, or the vice chancellor is there, all the parents, Zitec University, they are there, and you are told to come and give a speech or talk on behalf of the students, other students, you have to choose your words carefully. So you don't speak to parents the way you talk to your friends. So you have to choose, and you need to know how you want to say it. Number 3, to whom are you talking? I think this one we have already said. If you're talking to parents, there is a language you use. If you're talking to people on to people of the same level like yours, there is a language that you use. If you're talking to children, very small children, there is the way you talk to them and they understand you. If you talk to them like grown-ups, like the way you talk to your dad, they will not understand you. And then point number 4, we are talking about meta messages. Meta messages is the meaning you are supposed to say, to ask yourself. Or maybe you are saying that meta messages is the meaning apart from what the actual word expresses. So sometimes you might have had a conversation that made you feel uneasy. The words all sounded right, but there was something also going on. Meta messages take many forms. For example, at a meeting, a branch manager countrywide held in Mombasa, for example, the CEO introduces all the managers except Kitale branch manager. Yani manager amekuja akafanya namna gani? Aka-introduce all the manager countrywide, lakini akaacha branch manager wa wapi? Wa Kitale. So the manager assumes that this was a simple oversight. Anaweza fikiria hii ni kusahau tu, nimesahau. Hivyo ndivyo ata-assume. He was wrong because he was fired the following month. He was wrong because he was fired the following month. The manager was fired the following month. Why? Because he was wrong. So language is filled with meta messages, and you have, let me just give another example. I get into a room, I give everybody a handshake, and I fail to give one a handshake. What do you think the person that I didn't give a handshake will feel? That person will feel very bad. Huyo mtu atasikia vibaya sana. Ataona kwani huyu mtu ananichukia namna gani? Na labda it was simply a what? Just as ilikuwa tu ni an oversight, haukumuona. Number 2, we will talk about we are going to talk about language choices. Language choices. And we are told that although you are often told that you should use clear and precise language, you might not know how to go about it, since it is impossible to lay down strict rules that govern choice of language for all occasions and all circumstances. The decision here is limited to 4 important aspects of language choice. Number 1, when you're using a language, make sure that that language is clear. Kama unaongea Kiswahili, like sometimes hawa watu ambao wanatoka town, maybe kuna msiba fulani umefanyika town, umefanyika mashambani, na mnafaa muende kama group ya town kutoka kanisa fulani, muende msaidie, not sio kusaidia per se, but muende mjumuike na wale watu, muwape pole na muwafariji. But you find people from town, they go there, maybe they are going to somewhere interior in central. You go there, you start singing songs ambazo mnaimbanga huku kwa church. Some songs that you sing, sometimes you yourself, you don't even understand them. Hizi songs zinaimbwa na hawa Nigerians. Munaenda kuimba huko. Now these people are typical Kikuyus. They know no other language than but Kikuyu. You see, now you will not be at par with one another. When you visit such interior places, use the language that they use. Tafuteni nyimbo za Kikuyu, endeni muimbe hizo nyimbo. Na hao siku ile watakuja kuwatembelea huku Nairobi, watatafuta nyimbo at least 2 za Kizungu, 2 za Kiswahili na watawaimbia. So clarity is very important. Sometimes our meaning is unclear because our sentence structure is faulty. We might even be able to pass messages even when the clarity of the issue is unclear. We might be able to pass messages even when the clarity of the issue is unclear. But some communication instances demand for clarity more than others. If you are making a formal speech, you may need to be precise as possible because the audience may not get an opportunity to clarify your point. Avoid jargons, avoid slang, that is sheng, or other complicated words that may be understood by the specific group rather than the general population. Number 2, use what we call powerful talk. Powerful talk is the talk that comes directly to the point. Use powerful talk. Yani, go to the point. Stop beating around the bush. People who engage in powerful talk are found to be more credible. These people are found to be more attractive, and they are found to be more persuasive. To achieve a powerful talk, you should avoid hedges and qualifiers. Avoid hedges and qualifiers. For example, such as, I guess it was in May or August last year. Kind of such things. Such as, and you know, avoid such things. You know, I was talking to, I don't know whom you are talking to. Some such things, avoid qualifiers. Those are called qualifiers. Avoid. We have said that powerful talkers are found to be more credible. They are found to be more attractive and more persuasive. And a powerful talker is a person who just gets to the point. You don't do what? Beat around the bush. Then we also have number 3, vividness. Be creative, or by creating an experience for the receiver of your message, you can often make them feel what you felt, a technique for making our language more vivid. For example, maybe somebody has lost his friend. Try to make him feel how you felt when you, maybe for example, you experienced such a thing before. Try to make him feel how you felt by using the language clearly and vividly. Also, we are going to, let's look at improving your verbal style. About point number 4, moral choices. I'm also trying to rush because of time. How do you improve your verbal style? How do you improve your verbal style? Number 1, increase your vocabulary. Increase your vocabulary. When you hear a new word, try to understand it. Try to understand the context. Like, for example, you cannot just go using word hustler. Word hustler it's ambiguous. It has got various meanings. So in other words, you need to increase your vocabulary every now and then by understanding what words mean, so that you don't stand in front of people and you start calling them hustlers or any other word. As you listen to politicians or advertisers speak, you can pick up on new words that will help you build your vocabulary. So when you increase your vocabulary, you increase your chances of getting your intended message across to your listener. So the more your words, the more words you have, the more words you have at your command, the more precise you will be. Number 2, you are told, adapt your oral language. So as you talk to people, become conscious of them as particular individuals for whom you need to adapt your message. Because when you're talking to children, adapt your message to their level. Adapt or communicate to them at their level. And then break bad habits. Breaking bad habits simply means that when you stand in front of people and you are chewing, That is bad habit. Unaongelesha watu, umeambiwa utupatie speech and you are chewing as you talk. Or maybe you have got what we call making language mistakes such as poor grammar. You will probably find it hard to correct yourself because you are accustomed to talking this way. So avoid languages that are, grammatical mistakes. Try as much as possible to avoid those things. And again, when you look at grammatical mistakes, you are going to realize that people will start now not listening to you. Watasema hiki kinaongea namna gani? Huyu hata grammatical mistakes akonazo mingi. You are not serious even when you are saying something serious and your statements are full of grammatical mistakes. People will not take you serious. If you are also in an environment where mistakes are constantly being made, it is even more difficult. So the only way to correct such mistakes is to have someone constantly point them out. And how do you do it? For example, speak before your friend. Ongea mbele ya wanafunzi wako ama friends wako. Waambie, am I pronouncing it right? Read something like a paragraph. Ask them, am I saying it the way it is supposed to be? Am I pronouncing this word right? And by so doing, you'll find that you are eloquent, you are very good, fluent, you have very good command of English or very good command of language, say for example, Kiswahili or mother tongue. That is how you can do what? You can break these bad habits of grammatical mistakes. And that is it for today, unless there is a question. That is it for today, unless there is a question. Is there any question? Is there any question? Any question? If there is no question, I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to give out some activities that requires your attention. Number one, let me start from the beginning. Number one is that topic 2 notes. I've unleashed topic 2 notes. You can download those notes as we speak right now. Then when you look at that topic 2, I've written topic 2 verbal and topic 3 non-verbal communication. So I want you to read on non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication is the opposite of verbal communication. It's the opposite of verbal communication. It is communication through gestures. Like when you throw your hands in the air. Maybe you have come to my class late and I tell you, get out of my class, you are late. And then you throw your hands on air and you bang the door on your way out. That is non-verbal communication, and it speaks very rude about you. It shows that you are very rude and it shows how rude you are. So that is verbal communication. That is topic number 3, non-verbal communication. So I've given notes on that. Apart from that, I've also given a recording on the same. You can listen to the recording as you go through the notes. There is a recording as you go through topic 3 notes, and the recording is for topic 3. And then the next thing is there is a discussion forum for you that is awaiting you. There is a discussion forum that is waiting for you. And then there is quiz 2 and 3. So when you open that quiz 2 and 3, you're going to find 2 questions, which you're supposed to do them. And lastly, but not least, I know you cannot see it on your end, there is assignment 1. This assignment lasts for a whole week. This assignment will expire on Friday, a day like today, but at 5 p.m. So at 5 p.m., everybody must have done that assignment, because if you fail to, the system will close down and you'll not be able to submit your assignment. So there is assignment 1 there for you. You can, and you have a period of 7 days to do the assignment. And this assignment will last, we'll close down at 5 p.m. next week, a day like today. That is next week on Friday. Then there is what we call the attendance register. There is the attendance register. I'm going to give a password for that particular attendance register, and I'm sharing the attendance register here. So on the chart, I've shared the attendance register. It starts with a GDBEM5. GDBEM5. Those are small capitals, or small letters. GDBEM5. 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 Small letters. And then apart from that, that is the password for the attendance. Apart
Excuse
from
me,
that,
teacher.
yes.
Repeat, please, the password.
I'll share it on WhatsApp again. I'm sharing it on the WhatsApp.
Yeah. Or you're sending it to WhatsApp.
It is there. I've already shared on WhatsApp. I've already shared on WhatsApp. You can get that password on the WhatsApp group. And then apart from that, there is something that I wanted to say. I believe that those people who are not in the WhatsApp group, let me send a link so that you can join others in that particular WhatsApp group. I'm sharing the link here. That is the link. Those who have not joined WhatsApp group, that is the link. That WhatsApp group is not to discuss how you are going to make money. That is not where you show us some stocks, the kind of latest shoes or latest clothes. That one is particularly and specifically for learning. So I have sent a link there. You can click on that link. That link will take you directly to that WhatsApp group. Any question? Any question? Those activities are supposed to expire exactly at what time? At 5. So you have approximately 1 hour and 40 minutes to do those activities. Approximately 1 hour, 40 minutes to do the activities. If there is no question, I'll stop at that point to give you time to attend to those activities. Have a nice day.